Welcome to the Anxiety Ridden Moms Club, the podcast where two moms, each with her own unique style, come together to navigate the wild ride of motherhood, careers, and anxiety. I'm Kylie.
And I'm Gina. There was a time when Kylie and I were direct competitors in corporate America and had different perspectives on growing our careers while managing life and all the things that come with it. But those differences have only made our friendship and our insights richer.
I like to call it trauma bonded, Gina. What started out as a difference of opinions evolved into a genuine connection. Our journey from varied viewpoints to a supportive friendship has taught us that every approach has its own strength.
Now, as co-hosts and best friends, we blend generations of wisdom with fresh, modern ideas to explore the challenges, joys, and yes, even the anxieties of being career moms.
So whether you're a seasoned pro or just stepping into the wild world of parenting, a new career, or new relationships, join us as we share stories, offer advice, and sometimes even overthink it all together.
Grab your favorite cup of tea or coffee and settle in. Welcome to the Anxiety Ridden Moms Club.
Welcome back to the Anxiety Ridden Moms Club, where we get real about motherhood, career, relationships, and of course, anxiety. I'm Kylie.
And I'm Gina. Today's episode is a big one, literally and figuratively. We're talking about pregnancy. Not the cute maternity shoot kind. We mean the real stuff. The anxiety, the body changes, the unsolicited advice, the weird symptoms no one warned us about.
And the mental load. Because somehow, the second you find out you're pregnant, you're expected to also know how to raise a human. No pressure.
Let's start at the very beginning. Finding out you're pregnant. That moment can be filled with joy, fear, disbelief, excitement, or all of the above. Kylie, do you remember what you were thinking at that time?
Okay, so I feel like I need to back it up even further than that. And the pressure that so many people feel, and just the stories I've seen or heard, so many people, even close to me, have battled infertility. And I feel like there is such a stigmatism around everyone else's expectations on when you're supposed to start a family. Mm-hmm. And God forbid you get pregnant before you're married. But obviously in today's day and age, like, people are having babies before they get married. They want to be parents more than they want to be married, husband and wife. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for me, I know that I wanted to have babies young because my parents did. Mm-hmm. And now, I mean, they may laugh as they're watching their grandkids every day of the week, mm-hmm. but I feel like they get the opportunity to really live their lives and enjoy their kids and grandkids because they had kids young. So I always had in my head, I wanted 3 kids. I wanted them young. And I had that second one. And then I stopped. I stopped after baby number 2. So another shout out for Nora there. But I don't know. I just wanted to talk about, like I said, just the expectations that everyone else puts on us as women and men too, of when to start your family. You know, the second you get married, it's when are you going to have babies? When are you going to do this? Well, God forbid somebody doesn't want to have kids. Mm-hmm. What if that's not in their plan? They want to travel the world and they just want a golden doodle. Right. I don't know, but
right. Well, and you know, I think it's kind of funny because my mom actually just the other day sat down and was talking about when she was younger, and she has a sibling who was starting their family, but being that they're Italian, you know, and I love me the Italian side of my family. It is my favorite. But of course, they want you to expand, right? They want you to have more kids. And especially back then, it was a big thing. So my mom was even telling me that her father was saying, why aren't they having another one yet? Is there a problem? What's wrong? What's going on? You need to go find out because we got to get this fixed. And it's just, it's always, I think, had pressures around, you know, how many are you going to have? We want a bigger family. We want to grow. But just because sometimes your parents, your grandparents want you to grow, you have to be there too, right? And then you have some people nowadays I see on TikTok, and they want to have like 12. Okay, like It's a whole other realm of a story right there. I mean, to have 12 of them, I just cannot imagine, but you're probably a very efficient family and it's good for them. But everybody definitely has their views and ideas. And I think it does put a lot of pressure on people for sure.
I want to normalize doing what you want.
Yes.
And I think that we'll say over and over and over again, like, we got to stop caring what other people think, and you have to do what's best for you. And that means if you want to have a baby by yourself, have a freaking baby by yourself.
Yes.
If, whatever the circumstances are, feel comfortable in the decision that you make and wear it with pride.
Right.
And you owe no one an explanation for why you're doing what you're doing.
No. My oldest actually even just said to us about a week ago, he told me we were all together hanging out in the pool, having a good time, and he plays a lot with my grandsons. And the next day he messages me and tells me, so my fiance and I have decided, we don't want any kids. And I think that they're the perfect couple for like traveling and doing fun things together and enjoying life in a different way. And I think that's what fits them. But I just laughed because it was like so funny to me that he was like making his decision, like we finalized that. And I've always told my kids, you guys have to live your own lives and do what you want and what makes you happy. And so I was so glad when he made the decision and he just shares it with me and we can chat about it and make life something different. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I have plenty of friends who didn't have kids and their lives are pretty exciting, actually. All the traveling they get to do and the fun stuff. So every person can enjoy life in a different way.
I was going to say, and there are probably people out there and couples out there that can travel with their 15 kids and they love it and do it great. I actually have a friend, we've lost touch since high school, but she's everywhere. She has 3 and they're all over the world. And I just don't think that's the person that I am. I get so freaking stressed out.
Yes.
And, even something like your seat on the plane will get in my head 2 weeks prior. That's like, what if I can't sit with my kids? And what if I can't? Like, I just am not built for that.
Yes.
But, there are people out there that do it well and do it right. So that's where, again, circling back to, you've got to do what's right for you and your family and not let anything or anyone
make your decisions for you.
So let me ask, do you think that he felt nervous telling you that?
No, because I would hope not. But no, I don't think so. I am very big on always telling my kids, especially when they were younger, I would tell them all the time, once you move out of my house and you're paying your own bills, then a line gets drawn for me. So at the end of the day, I want to become where we're more on a better friendship kind of level at that point. Because when they're kids, you don't get a choice but to just be their mom, right? And so
no, you get a choice, and some people make the wrong choice, but that's for another episode, another day.
But ultimately, I just feel like when we got to that point, we've done a lot of just growing in our friendship. So I always tell them, I just want their life to be what they want it to be, that they're happy, because I'm not here for their entire life, so they might as well enjoy it. And I don't want to be blamed for anything either. Remember, this is my job, and I'm doing it because my mother made me. Like, I don't want any of that,
Yeah.
That just pressures me too much. So no, he had no problem. All my kids have told me kind of what they want and what they don't want and have made decisions for their own situations. And I support every single one of them because I think that they make the decisions I would kind of expect, As a mom, you kind of know what they should probably be doing.
I'm going to raise awesome humans because we are doing this podcast and I am learning so much from you, which I love. And kind of taking it back or taking it into kind of the episode that we had planned to talk about. Mm-hmm. When I say I'm learning so much from you, I'm learning that redheads have a whole different pregnancy experience and that lots of things are different for redheads. So obviously this is audio only and no visual, but my co-host Gina is a redhead. Mm-hmm. And just this week I've learned that lots of things happen differently for redheads than they do for everyone else. Now, I also want to preference this in saying I did not have any issues getting pregnant. That was not my issue. When the thought came up about trying, it happened. And that's just how it went for me. Anybody, again, I just want to be sensitive to the fact that infertility is out there. It's real and it is.
Yes.
It affects so many people. So not bragging about it, but that was not an issue for me. Mm-hmm. It was having healthy pregnancy. And carrying the baby full term. So with my oldest, who is now 13, healthy, thriving, all of the things, he was born at 29 weeks and five days. So he was 2.5 months early, and he was 2 pounds, 4.5 ounces. So he was itty bitty tiny when he was born. I had preeclampsia. And it was a nasty experience. The pregnancy part for me, I remember calling the doctor and saying, something is not right. Something is not right. And they said to cut back on my salt intake. And my mom was like, no, that's not right. And again, we'll save that for another episode, talking about fighting for yourselves, because nobody else will.
Yes.
But I'm so glad that my mom pushed, for resolution. She's like, okay, we'll go home and prop your feet up. And if it's not better in the morning, we're going to the emergency room. And I remember laying in the emergency room, and my cousin, who now is a nurse practitioner and actually just had her second baby a few days ago. So shout out to her doing the mom thing. And, oh God, he's so cute. He is so cute, but I don't want any more. I love babies, but I do not want any more. So anyway, I remember being in the emergency room, and my cousin and my mom were out in the hall talking, and I was like, no. Whatever's being said can be said in here. And so I was in I don't want to say small town hospital, but I was in a smaller hospital. And they were in the hallway discussing my transfer to the big city, to St. Louis, where we are so freaking fortunate to have the hospitals and the care that we do in the St. Louis, Missouri area.
Definitely.
And that day, so the day before I was told to decrease my salt intake, the next day I was being transferred via ambulance to St. Mary's Hospital in Clayton to be monitored, and they told me I wasn't going home until I had a baby.
Oh, that's got to be extremely scary.
Yes. So and I was right at 29 weeks. And so we got over to St. Mary's, and I was in the hospital for about 5 days, and they do this test on the baby. They did it, I think, like 5 times a day or something, where they would check for certain things. And, it was like a score of 8. And so as far as movement and all of the things that happen inside there, I don't know, but they scale it on a scale to 8. And then the next Saturday, they said, we're going to have to take him. And again, I was fortunate enough that they got me transferred over and, got the shots to try to help, speed up his lungs and different things. And I, had Wyatt via C-section October 8th, 2011. My mom was actually in the delivery room with me because my ex-husband is great at a lot of things, but calming me down was not one of them. So when we were deciding who was going to be in there, they're like, you need the person that's going to keep you calm. And he's like, yeah, that's not me. That's not me. So he was quick to turn down the invitation, but my mom got to witness, and I was out of it because I, had a C-section. So, but my mom got to witness chest compressions on my 2-pound baby.
Aw.
And probably something that she'll never get out of her head. Yeah. So not meaning to ramble, but that's just kind of my story about pregnancy and why, I fought hard. I had lost 100 pounds before I had Nora. I carried her to term, and I went in to get induced. And before they even started the Pitocin, her heart rate dropped, and I had to be taken for an emergency C-section again. So I am not great at having the baby or carrying the baby. So this episode specifically, it's just not my thing. So I'm going to toss it over to Gina quite a bit because it's just not something that I enjoy. But anyway, so finding out I was pregnant, then the reason I told the Wyatt story is because if you do the math, From my anniversary date to why it's due date, it doesn't add up. But we got pregnant very quickly because, like I said, I wanted to have kids. I wanted to have kids very early on, like my parents did. And so if you do the math, it doesn't add up. But I did wait until I was married, like 2 days. So
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any difference, right?
Yeah. And so obviously all of the things, joy, fear, disbelief, and excitement.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. And I think pregnancy brings seriously all of that. So I think the one thing, honestly, as we've gone through so far the episodes, you've talked a lot about who your kids are, and I really haven't. I just say I have them, right? So that everyone understands. I have 4 children. My 2 oldest are actually my husband's, and then I have the next 2. So I have only have had the 2 pregnancies. Now, I've raised all 4 of them, so they are all 4 my kids, just so to be clear, because there is no difference. It's just that I don't get to have the joy of talking about the pregnancies for the other 2, and it's one of the things I've always told them I wish I would have had. But so my first pregnancy was with Austin, so he's the 3rd one in line. So we have Tommy, who's my oldest, then Casey, then Austin, and then my baby Kylie. So with Austin,
Let's just preference that it is a different Kylie. It is not me. It is Gina's Kylie looks exactly like her. So just something we have in common, but we're not the same. I am not Gina's daughter.
So with Austin, it took me a little bit to get pregnant. So I've not always been where it's quick, where all of a sudden I have a lot of friends that do have that. Well, boy, I felt like having a baby, and it just happened. Okay. It does take me time. But once I get pregnant, I feel like
how much time?
With Austin, it took about 8 months. With Kylie, it took almost 2 years. It did, and I didn't do anything to help anything along. I just kind of gave it to God as to when I get them, but it just didn't happen quickly for me. I don't really know why. But once I'm pregnant, it's easy enough, except for I say that in the aspect that I would say that when I got pregnant with Austin, it wasn't very far into the pregnancy that I started having a lot of symptoms, and they said, you either have Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. So we'll just see how you feel through this pregnancy. We can't test you, do anything until you have him. If that gets to be too bad, we'll take him early and then we'll test you. So I didn't want to do that. So it was a sick pregnancy. I was sick a lot. I threw up a lot. I just felt miserable a lot. And at the end, I swelled a lot. So I didn't really weight-wise gain so much weight. But if you
needed to reduce your salt intake,
which I cannot do.
I'm just kidding.
I cannot do. I've looked at the low sodium diets. That is not for me. As I said, I was Italian. We like salt. So it probably would have been smart for me to do that, because if you would have seen, I had to go up in sizes of shoes because I had just one big toe. I didn't have individuals anymore. They were just so swollen. I looked like a mess at the end.
Oh, I can relate, because I had gained like 76 pounds of just pure water. Yeah. And that's when my mom's like, something's wrong. It's so funny that you mentioned that shoe thing, because I had actually called and said, I need different shoes. Like my shoes hurt and she came home with these, big ass slide sandals, because my mom is the GOAT, greatest of all time for sure. But she came up with some bigger pants and some bigger shoes, but also recognized that something wasn't right. So I can relate to that swelling part.
Yeah, that's not fun. But when I had my delivery with him, I had 2 very different experiences between my kids, because with Austin, he was down and engaged 3 weeks prior to his due date. So I ended up that he broke my water when I was at home 6 days early, and I went to the hospital, and I would have probably had no problem. I would have delivered him like in 4 hours, just like that, if he wouldn't have had his head cocked kind of sideways. So they had to sit and spin him around. So when he came out, it was a little difficult on me, and it was interesting on the size of his head.
So back to taking a while for you to get pregnant. Were you the type, and you said give it to God, did you buy stock in pregnancy tests, or you just kind of wrote it out? You weren't like the test every month type person. You just...
Because I knew that would make me crazy. And it was already like kind of gets to you anyways, so I didn't want to make it worse. So I just had to if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. My mom didn't have any problems getting pregnant. She was like you. I want to get pregnant today. Okay. Like when it came to me, it just took a while.
Yeah, to this day, I'm scared. I'm like, don't look at me. I'll get pregnant.
Yeah. So not me. So, but I'm glad, though, on the other hand, that my pregnancies were, I mean, if I had not had where it flared up to cause me to end up with ulcerative colitis, I think I would have my pregnancies would have been simple and easy. Because with Kylie, it was no problem at all. I mean, her pregnancy was easy. Delivery was easy. I mean, everything about it was just simple. So it's just, autoimmune wanted to flare up on me, and it does make you sick. So, and not that much fun, but good deal. But I will say the cone head portion. So for all of you women that are thinking about getting pregnant or are pregnant, don't be surprised if your kid's head is very long. And so I would take Austin's little cap and put it over his head, and then every so often I'd slowly run it up the front of his head and be like, oh boy. And then we'd bring it back down. I'd be like, he's so cute. And then he'd pull that head up again. He'd be like, oh God. And then you pull it back down. It's okay. It does go back into shape. It comes back.
That's something that I didn't realize because I had 2 C-section babies, and Wyatt was so tiny and so hairy, and he spent some time under a Billy light for his bilirubin levels, so he was very orange. And it's possible early on he resembled a monkey and a very hairy little guy. That his first, so he was born October 8th, and his first Halloween, I bought his Halloween costume from Build-A-Bear. He was so tiny, and they don't make, so it was either a dog costume or Build-A-Bear. So I went to Build-A-Bear and bought him his first Halloween costume. Aww. So, but we spent 2 months in the NICU, and luckily for me, I got to bring my baby home.
Yeah.
And there are so many people out there that don't get that. So everybody has their own experiences, good, bad, or indifferent, and we are here and appreciate all of the stories. Oh, yes. So if you've got any pregnancy stories, send them
our way.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear them and share with each other, and try to help anyone newer too, trying to get pregnant, are pregnant, just to help them along that path would be great. Any advice that people have would be wonderful to be able to share with them.
For sure. So let's talk about when you got pregnant and kind of the anxiety that goes with that. Are you ready? Is my body ready? What am I supposed to be eating? Googling what not to eat when you're pregnant, reading books, different things like that. So let's talk a little bit about the body changes and the mental load that kind of comes along with.
Okay, well, here, let me just stop you. First off, I'm not a big reader. So people gave me pregnancy books. I never read them. I probably should have, but I didn't. I wish I would have. I know there's some good ones out there. And I think that it was something that more of you probably should be doing and not taking my advice on the not reading the books portion of it, because it probably would ease some of your concerns and worries and stuff like that. So, but I do know that you actually had a book and you read it.
I did. I am trying every New Year's. I kind of set a goal to read a certain amount of books, and I never really hit that. But I will say a lot of people gifted me different books. There's the What to Expect When You're Expecting series, which I think is a good one, but it's very, very dry in my opinion and just matter of fact, which is good for some people, and some people enjoy that. But someone had given me the book called Belly Laughs by Gina McCarthy, and it was the best gift somebody could have ever given me. And it goes through all of the things that it's real. It's real and it's raw. So a couple of the chapter titles: Honey, Your Sperm Really Does Work, Psycho Chick Through Hormonal Rage, Niagara in My Pants. So,
it hits everything.
It hits absolutely everything. I can either pee or you can get the hell out of my way. So shout out to Jenny McCarthy for her book, Belly Laughs, because it is an excellent read and it just gives it to you real and raw. And that's my kind of read. So there were lots of times that I'm like, oh my God, is this normal? And she touched on a lot of that in the book. So I will give a shout out to that book. I'm not an avid reader, but that is one that I read through and through and would reference when something would go wrong.
Well,
so.
I think that's the thing is in pregnancy, and I can tell you, so, I've had so far my daughter-in-law who's had 2 pregnancies, and I have my to-be daughter-in-law who is pregnant, and they both do a lot of Googling on like what to eat. I didn't do that either. And they'll say, you're not supposed to eat this. Did you know you're not supposed to have that? I will say that I think books like that are probably a good read. For the reality of it is sometimes over Googling, over reading into these serious things can make it more stressful and have more anxiety. I mean, we are growing a human, but they'll say, did you do this when you were pregnant? I mean, did you do that? And I'm like, yeah, no, I didn't do that. Wait, don't you think your man's fine? You look fine to me. So I think we did all right. So don't stress over all of the things you're supposed to do. So even like the little bit that I saw on that book for Belly Laughs looked like it would have been more of a thing I probably would have actually read, because pregnancy shouldn't be taken so seriously that you're anxiety ridden to the point that it's stressful.
And that's my sister-in-law, both of them had babies after me, but they'd be sitting there having a conversation. They're like, well, since I'm pregnant, I can't have that. And I'm like, oh my God, I ate that the whole time. What is happening? And that alone, you're absolutely correct that things like that bring anxiety upon you, and stress isn't good ever.
No.
Let alone when you're pregnant. So, it's good to keep it in check, because, that stuff can make you spiral for sure.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
A lot of people too, like, I was pregnant and I had a night out, which I don't condone drinking or smoking when you're pregnant. But obviously early on when you don't know, what you don't know, you don't know. And
well, I didn't know. I was out partying it up, having the best time of my life. I really had way too many shots. And all of a sudden the next day I'm like, I don't know why I have a feeling, but I maybe should probably test. And I was like, oh my God, I just like drank all those shots last night and had so many chips and cheese Velveeta dip, and like, I think that's all just bad when you're pregnant.
Probably.
But he's okay. Austin, you're fine.
Austin, if you're hearing this and this is why you have some, other underlying issue, no.
Right. It's my fault and I'm sorry.
That's life, and it's early on and things happen. So it's nothing to stress out about.
Well, just like I even tell him, he was a lazy baby. So like when I was pregnant, he wouldn't move a lot. So sometimes I'd be like, you always hear these women even talk about, well, I didn't feel movement. So then they'd go to the doctors, and then they'd be like, oh, we got to just put you in the hospital for a day. I mean, so I'd get scared. So I'd grab a hold of my stomach and I'd shake it really hard.
Oh my God.
He kicked me a couple times.
Austin, stop listening. If you are here, stop listening.
And I'd be like, okay, whew, you're fine. No problem. But if I didn't do that, I would have been paranoid and probably at the doctor's office every other day, because he would just, if he moved, it was like a sloth. Your belly would kind of move, and he'd go the other way, and then he'd lay down, and then, I don't know, it'd be hours on end before you'd feel maybe a slight little movement again. And that's probably why he was such a easygoing kid to begin with, but it was sometimes scary when you're pregnant. But his Cammie, that's pregnant now with their daughter, all of a sudden she'll be like, well, I was trying to get her to kick, and she said, so I shook my belly, and he was like, stop doing that. And I started laughing. I said, well, I did to you all the time. You look fine, don't you? I don't know. Maybe that's why he has a cone head, like it was.
Yeah, that's a very, very possible. That's funny. They always said drink something sugary. Mm-hmm. Wyatt was, oh my gosh, he was such an easy baby. And I think it's because he spent 2 months in the NICU. So he learned how to sleep through every bell and whistle and scream and cry and anything in between. So that kid can sleep like no one's business. So when Nora came around and she didn't sleep like that, I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
So I guess one of the things about a NICU baby is they're good sleepers, because they start off in a very, very loud environment. They also gave him, when he had like small procedures for whatever, and they didn't want to put him under general anesthetic. Obviously he was so little, and when he got off the vent, they did everything that they could not to get him back on. And again, I know I mentioned it before, but shout out to the St. Louis region pediatric hospitals. So we have Children's and Cardinal Glennon, and they are two of the best hospitals in the world. So, people come from all over to go to these hospitals because of the best care. And I am so grateful for them. So Wyatt was at Cardinal Glennon, and any small procedures, they would give him these things called sweeties, and they were sugar water. And so the sugar water, they would just drop little sugar water in, to distract him from whatever they were doing. And that kid loves chocolate like I have never, chocolate and sweets. He is a chocolate sweet kid. So he can sleep and he loves sweets. And I blame those both on the NICU. So back into it, how are your hormones? Because I feel like 1 minute I was crying at a puppy commercial. The next, I had convinced my now ex-husband that he was breathing too loudly on purpose just to upset me. So how are your hormones going through it?
Honestly, I don't know. My husband could probably tell you a little better, but I think I'm pretty chill. So I didn't have a whole lot of, I would say, hormonal issues per se. I didn't have a lot of mood swings. But I just really, I don't know. I think I had at times where I would just feel exhausted and tired and overwhelmed about what was coming and what did I have to do and those kind of feelings. I think definitely that nesting phase they always talk about. I definitely went through that where I'd have to be like, I got to get everything in order. I have to have it ready. I have to have this done. I think I had a lot of that going on more than I had where I was raging and angry and crying. And I didn't have a lot of that. I just kind of was more of like, keep myself busy. If I kept myself busy, I don't have time to be in a bad mood.
For sure. I know, when I was in the hospital, I would feel, sometimes I remember I was so sick. And I remember one time saying, just get him out of me. Just get this thing out of me. I can't live like this. All of the things. And sometimes, you feel guilty for not being grateful 24/7. And that's something that I still think about to this day. It's like, what would I do? Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. But I can't imagine my life without that kid.
Right.
And so, I feel guilty for not being grateful and for forever having those thoughts. But, newsflash, you can be thankful and overwhelmed.
Yes.
And, all
and
of
I've all of those feelings all in one, for sure. I do think that one of the things that I've, as I say, I even got myself ready and prepared for everything. One thing I did not prepare for, which I do encourage, in fact, try to even discuss with my kids about, is the fact that I didn't really talk to family members or think about how do I want things to play out later for help, because I'm one who doesn't ask for help. So I didn't think about even needing to maybe talk about it ahead of time. So I definitely talked to them about it in regards to, what is it that you want from me? What's your expectations that you have of me? What can I do to help you? What would you want me to do or not do? I think that those things, that definitely is something that when you're nesting and getting the baby room in order, start thinking about how to take care of yourself after you have this baby. And setting what can people do?
Setting some healthy boundaries too. Yes. People want to... I feel like people are normally very respectful when you're in the hospital. Mm-hmm. But once you bring baby home and, make your boundaries clear. And it's okay to say no. So if you don't feel like company, and that was something for me. And again, shout out to my mom, because she would either cater to the people or she would just say no, she's not feeling it. Cause you don't want to, you want to be grateful for the people that want to be there to support you and support your new baby and all of those things. But anytime someone's over at your house, you feel like you have to host, is the house picked up, is, whatever it is. We have those anxieties and those overwhelming thoughts about, not that everything has to be perfect, but you have to make sure the dirty diapers are all picked up and everything's in order. So anytime someone's over at your house, you feel like you're hosting. And once, you're sleep deprived, you're, in pain, regardless of how how you gave birth. Each, whether it's a vaginal delivery or a C-section, each come with their own
recovery,
and set of things. So if you don't feel like company, you tell people you don't feel like company.
Yes.
And if you say early on or when you're pregnant that like, oh yeah, I won't care when people come over, but you come home and you're like, I just need some me time. My biggest piece of advice that someone gave me, and it was the best, was you sleep when they sleep. And you don't want people in your house. Now, my people, and this kind of will bridge us into episode number 2, is building your the next episode.
Yes.
Shouldn't say episode number 2, but the next episode is going to be about building your village and the people around you to support you and, help you in all of the stages of life, but raising a kid. And, my village would be cooking or picking up or doing things to help. But that's not everyone. Some people want to come and hold the baby and judge you. And
well, I think the other thing, especially when it's your first child, you guys have to find your own way. You know what I mean? Like it's a change in your life to bring in this child, the lack of sleep, how do you get the baby to stop crying when they're crying and understand each other? I mean, there's a whole learning curve. And I think sometimes that is a reason why people don't want visitors. Like, you're trying to figure it out already. And maybe after a month, you kind of a little bit more settled in and more open to having more people come around and be involved and all those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, if you don't kind of think about that beforehand, you have to realize that you need to, because otherwise you just don't know what's to come. I mean, Austin was colicky, screamed all day, threw up every time he ate, all the time. And you find a lot of people don't necessarily want to visit you once they know that your kid just screams. That is actually when you do need some help. But I don't ask for it. And so it was stressful because I don't ask for any help. I did have one girl that I worked with at the time that she committed to me that every Tuesday she would just come to my house after work and just take care of him so I didn't have to, which for me was perfect because she would literally get there and I'd just be like, here, have him. And she would keep him and hold him. And I think because she wasn't stressed out, he was calmer when she was there. Which made me just feel like, and I could watch him and he would be happy and she'd stay all the way till he went to bed. And then I felt like, oh, God, because he was a good sleeper.
What time did you cut that off? Like, was he 18 and she was still coming over on Tuesdays?
I wish.
Because, I mean, like I said, my cousin just had a baby, and that's an incredible idea, is just to give her a day that just be like, I'm going to come over every Wednesday, and if you don't like it, tell me. But I'm just going to be there for a couple of hours, and I'm going to...
Yeah, just give you a break, just so you can relax. But it doesn't always just have to be like, oh, I put the baby down, and I can go sleep. But, when you sleep, you still have one ear open. Always. To if the baby wakes up. But if you have somebody else that's there while, you're just able to maybe just sit back, relax, kick your feet up on the couch, have normal chit chat like an adult, and yet that you watch and you're seeing your baby's happy, perfectly taken care of, and you don't have to stress over it. And if you needed to doze off or get some sleep, so go in the other room, that you have somebody there to take care of that child, but you're still right there in case something was bad or happened that you need to be there, because there's a lot of anxiety-ridden things about just having your child somewhere else. So sometimes knowing that they're home, they're right down the hallway with somebody else, if there's a problem, they're going to come and get you. That's probably the best sleep you actually are ever going to get.
Nora and I had that conversation last week because she's like, why do you always sleep in? And I'm like, that's interesting, because the weekends that you're with your dad and you're not here, I'm up at the butt crack of dawn and doing all of the things. But when, both kids and obviously, my ex is a phenomenal dad, and this is no way, shape or form any reflection of him. It's just my mama heart when they are here and at my house, and I can sleep and I can relax. And when they're not, I always feel anxious about that.
So some of the things too that I can bring up was ultimately, especially when you have your first, I think you kind of understand it after that. But when you have your first child, is that first initial body changes, right? So for me, I became top heavy pretty quickly. So that was I was
so slow. I was like, what are you talking about? Duh. Hello.
And the last time, and when I was growing
Austin,
up,
you might need to go away again.
And when I was growing up, I was the last to go through puberty or anything. Just, I was a late bloomer. So when all of a sudden you get pregnant, you're like, I didn't know these things could even exist here. And it was very quickly. But I do think that going through all those changes of stuff that you get up every day even, and you feel like, I didn't know my hips could get that changed and look that way, and what's going on with my butt. And it's crazy how you just develop into your mother's figure. And that's a lot of it. I'm like, I think that kind of is starting to look like my mom. But, I
would
think,
love to look like my mom. I'm just saying, mine's just everywhere and all over the place. And then having 2 C-sections, I have all of those issues that I will live with, for the rest of my life unless I get rich and then have, surgery, which I am very hopeful for. But, I could have a whole nother episode on that. So anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, I just think it's a lot. I think there's a lot of different things that happen and change. And for some people, I think that they become very stressed about it. And other women are embracing it like no other. And I just think we should realize that pregnancy is beautiful. And there is something wonderful about it. And that your body changing is because you're creating something beautiful. Instead of focusing on, it didn't look like that before, and where did this come from? Instead, focus on, oh my God, look how great this is. This is all turning into something so wonderful and perfect, and can't wait to meet that child and not worry about all that other stuff. I just think it's what you have to focus on. Even my to-be daughter-in-law, Cammie, she even had said something about, going to the doctor, and then they always take your weight, and it stresses her out really bad. And I told her, I said, sometimes when it comes to food, even just think about, I'm not eating for me. Just think about, what does the baby want to eat? And really, what would I feed the baby if the baby was here? Well, you're going to feed the baby, obviously, fruits and vegetables and proteins and all the good stuff, right? So just try to be mindful of what you're eating, and it'll help you in the end. But that way you don't stress over it. It's not, and you can still have your ice cream and go get some fast food once in a while. Like, it's okay.
And, you're probably your toughest critic. I don't think that anybody else, feels the way that you feel internally about some of the changes. Now, I've heard horror stories about doctors, but, in my, and we both worked in the medical industry, you still do, but, you've got doctors. I want a doctor that is a good doctor and knows what they're doing. And I recognize that sometimes that means lack of bedside manner.
Yeah. Right.
But a lot of people can take that super, super personally. So choose the right physician, because I think that sometimes they can make you feel terrible about some of those things, just because, like I said, I want a doctor that's a good doctor, and I can handle some snarkiness or some lack of compassion, if they're fixing me, whatever the case may be. But, some people, they want to feel comfortable, and they want to have, honest conversations. And when the doctor's like, well, you gained 10 pounds since the last time I saw you, that can rub you the wrong way. So finding a good, that's important, is to find a physician that you drive well with.
Yes. And have a good support team at home. So that way you have that friends and family who support you with whatever, and that you realize you're just growing something great and there's nothing to be concerned about.
For sure. So kind of, to wrap this up, what helped us cope? What are your finishing thoughts here on this pregnancy topic?
My finishing thoughts are that I think that everyone needs to realize that we have to create boundaries and remind yourselves that everything doesn't need to be figured out today. It's okay. Reach out to family and friends to help, and it'll be fine.
And for me, it was letting go of perfection, saying no more, and connecting with other moms who got it, not just the Instagram or TikTok highlight reel for sure.
If you're listening and you're pregnant right now, first, congratulations, and second, give yourself grace. You don't have to love every moment to be a good mom.
Absolutely. You're already doing a hard and beautiful thing, and we see you.
That's all for today's episode. If you related to anything we said or have a pregnancy story you want to share, we would love to hear from you.
Please give us some feedback. Comment your pregnancy stories, tips, tricks, anything you've got. We want to hear from you. You can send us a message on Instagram or Facebook at the ARMC, or, leave us a note, a review, anything. But don't forget to hit follow so you don't miss the next episode.
You got this, Mama. If no one's told you lately, let me be the one to say it. You're not failing, you're growing. You're not broken, you're becoming. And you're doing better than you think.
Thanks for being here today. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love if you'd subscribe, leave a review, or share it with another mom who might need to hear this. You can also connect with us on Facebook or TikTok at the ARMC. We'd love to hear your story.
Until next time, give yourself grace, breathe deep, and remember, peace is possible.